Welcome to Detention with Ms. Judy. I'm your host, Judy Goldberg. Before I get started, I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about myself and why I decided to do this podcast. I spent 25 years working in the public education system, first as a teacher's aide right out of a high school, and then I received my Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies. I started substitute teaching a year before I started my teacher credential program. I taught for over 20 years, mostly in middle school, and I received my master's degree in educational leadership. When my second child was diagnosed with ADHD and on the autism spectrum, he needed special accommodations to help him succeed in school because there were certain things that occurred there. He would get punished for his attention issues instead of giving him accommodations. And the teachers and administrators would never try my suggestions. In fact, instead, they would frequently suggest medication, which, by the way, is against the law. Now, to this day, he doesn't like school, and he never wants to return back to a classroom. I want to prevent this from ever happening to any other child. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also called IDEA, there is a section which is number 504, and this is what it says on the U.S. Department of Education website. Section 504 is a federal law designed to protect the rights of individuals with disabilities in programs and activities that receive federal financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Education. The Section 504 regulations require a school district to provide a free, appropriate public education to each qualified student with a disability who is in the school district's jurisdiction, regardless of the nature or severity of the disability. Under Section 504, FAPE consists of the provision of regular or special education and related aids and services designed to meet the student's individual educational needs as adequately as the needs of non-disabled students are met. Here are the qualifications. The child has to have a mental or physical impairment that limits one or more major life activities. Now, there is a link to the information that includes these life activities. I have it posted below. It is on the U.S. Department of Education website, and if you scroll down to questions 11 and 12, it will explain more of those life activities, even though some of those life activities that your child may be experiencing that affects their life is not necessarily on that list, does not mean that your child will not qualify. Now, what's important to know about this is no medical diagnosis is needed to qualify. In fact, a medical diagnosis does not even guarantee qualification. Now, you might think, well, how do I request this evaluation? Well, first of all, don't delay in doing it. You're going to want to do this in writing, write a letter to the principal, as well as the classroom teacher and special education teacher, specifically explaining your concerns. Hand deliver a copy to each one of those individuals or a representative of them, and keep the hard copies for yourself. Very important throughout this entire process, and whether or not your child needs help. This is good to always cover yourself in case there's a problem with a teacher, a problem with an administrator. Keep a log of all of your communication with the school. Very important. Whether it's written or whether it's verbal, you're going to want to list on this log the date, the time, the method of delivery, if you were delivering something to them, who you delivered it to, what it was in regarding, and make sure that that log is filled out, even the smallest conversation at all, whether you initiate the conversation or whether another individual initiates it, whether you receive an email, whether you send an email. It's very important. If you haven't heard a response within 3 to 5 days, follow up in writing or via telephone. And once again, put that in that communication log. They're supposed to respond within a reasonable time, but the law doesn't specify a specific time frame. So I'm saying 3 to 5 days, that would be reasonable. That's a school week. The things that are included in the evaluation process would be teacher and staff observations of the child, a team meeting where they discuss the observations and home habits and behavior, the child's strengths and weaknesses, and possible modification options. Also, you're going to want to bring up anything that works at home, and they're going to also bring up any concepts that they've used at school that have worked to help alleviate some of the issues that the child's been having. I can't stress enough that parent input is extremely important. Please make sure that you attend these meetings. If you have them scheduled, please make sure that you know your child, that you know what your child's strengths and weaknesses are, and that you know what the things are that work for them. After the meeting and the paperwork is ready to review, I really encourage that you read through the plan thoroughly. If there's something that you don't understand, ask questions, and please don't sign it unless all the information on the report is accurate and you agree with all of the accommodations that have been listed. Finally, you need to know your rights. You do have them. In fact, they're going to give you a pamphlet that says Know Your Rights. Please read it. Please understand it. If you have any questions, please ask. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, this class is dismissed. If you have any questions or comments, please send me an email at detentionwithmsjudy@gmail.com. And please remember to subscribe to my channel for notifications of any future podcasts. Welcome to Detention with Ms. Judy. I'm your host, Judy Goldberg. Before I get started, I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about myself and why I decided to do this podcast. I spent 25 years working in the public education system, first as a teacher's aide right out of high school, and then I received my Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies.